Hello, welcome back to our channel, American Ultra Stock. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, as it is a Monday, we're going to be doing the roundup and analysis of our segment, the stock down and stock up, the players who did well over the weekend or not. Braden, straight to the point, out of all the action we've had, and we saw a lot of action from our guys playing abroad or at home, who's the first one who impressed you and makes the list on the stock up?
So my first stock up is not actually going to be due to performance this weekend. It's going to be Diego Kochen. And that's because today the news came out that he will officially be Barcelona Athletic's goalkeeper for the remainder of the season, and assuming he'll be the goalkeeper for next season for them as well, which is huge news for Kochen. He's been in a weird situation this season where he's been kind of just good enough within the system to always consistently be on the bench for the first team for Barcelona, which is an incredible accomplishment within itself. But obviously, as a third or fourth choice goalkeeper on the bench, you're never going to see any minutes. And having him there has kind of prevented him from playing at other levels. He hasn't really seen much game time for Barca Athletic or for the U19s. He played like 1 or 2 games in UEFA Youth League, but really, despite his high level of talent, he hasn't gotten a lot of minutes this season. And I think although he did let in 4 goals today in his first start for them, which isn't necessarily a great start, they're a very good team. They have a decent chance of getting promoted. They're second in their group in the 3rd tier of Spain. If you don't know, there's 2 groups of 20 teams. 2 teams get promoted from both. They're in the 2nd spot right now, which would put them in a playoff situation. If he could potentially be starting in the Segunda division in Spain next year, that'd be so huge for his development, because we've been saying for a while, the whole fan base, he needs a loan. If he's not going to keep playing at Barca and continue to be in the situation where he's behind a couple players and just always sitting on the bench, it's cool, but at some point it gets concerning, the lack of minutes. And now this is a perfect situation. He doesn't need to leave the club on a loan. He can stay in the system around La Masia products, grow up with them. Hopefully players that maybe he could, who knows, be playing with in the first team in a couple of years, depending on the situation. Ter Stegen's getting older. They're going to need a new goalkeeper eventually. Barca are pretty broke. Maybe they'll trust the youth. Kochen's definitely one of the options. There's a couple others as well. But I think overall, this whole situation has been a huge positive over this weekend.
Absolutely. If he does get to play in the 2nd division, we've seen a lot of guys play at that level, and it's honestly really good. It builds character, as we always say. And we had guys like Maloney pop up from the 2nd division in the past. And yeah, great to see him in a position that we are, quite frankly, really needing someone to step up. Moving on to my first pick, going to be, well, talking about 2nd division, Serie B. In my opinion, the best midfielder in Serie B, Tessmann, with a brace this weekend. A very nervy game from Venezia again. And it's quite clear that Tessmann, deservedly so, is a guy that has outgrown Serie B. So important for the club. Now 9 goal contributions, but it's not just the contributions, it's just the tackling, the positioning. I don't think that he's faster, but he is covering ground a lot more smarter. Honestly, distributes the ball so well and has an eye for a goal, as we've seen. Could have had 3, really. He hit another shot that really could have been a goal. Great match from Buzio as well. I think it comes at a time where Venezia were really needing someone to step up. Paulo was having some injuries after an international break, and Tessmann stepped up, as I think he's, alongside Paulo, the best player at the club. Very nervy win. It was 1-0 for the entirety of the game, basically, but he sealed it just at the end. 2-0 for Venezia, and I think that now they're likely going to get up either through playoffs or the regular season. I hope it's through the regular season, and if they do, it's all a lot thanks to Tessmann. So happy for him. And he finished the game again with the captain's armband. It's always nice to see. Hopefully he leads us to something special in the summer as the captain for the Olympics. On a sour note, we have to pick a player who didn't impress and got stock down, Braden. Who is it?
Yeah, I feel really bad for this player. He deserves a stock down in a lot of different aspects. It's going to be Jordan Pefok. And really, where to begin with Pefok? He did get a consistent run of games for Gladbach. He scored a couple of goals, but then his form did kind of dry up. He was removed from the starting lineup, then came off the bench this weekend against Dortmund in the 75th minute. 10 minutes later, he's having to be subbed off due to injury. And we've seen this the entire season. He's been plagued with injuries, so many little concerns that have had him out. Maybe not for long spells of time, which has been nice. Some of our other players we know have been out for extended periods of time, but he's consistently missing stretches of games, and it's happened so many times, and it's really interfered with his progress at Gladbach, so much so that it came out a report out of Germany this week that they will not be exercising their option to buy on him just due to his injury concerns, lack of availability. He's a very one-dimensional player as well, and ultimately they just decided that the budget would be spent better in other positions, which I think is completely fair from their perspective. But it does mean he'll be going back to Union Berlin next season. Will he get another chance with them? It remains to be seen. He started on fire when he originally signed from Young Boys in Switzerland, but then kind of slowed down a little bit for them. I think kind of a similar situation to what we saw this season. He had a good run of games for Gladbach, but then slowed down. Maybe he'll be at Union Berlin next season, but I think his future's up in the air. It looks like he's kind of becoming a little bit of a journeyman. Maybe he'll go to another Bundesliga club on loan, maybe on a permanent. We really have no idea. Your guess is as good as mine what happens to Pifak, but due to all these injuries and the uncertainty around his future, he has to be a stock down.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's honestly, he's having an all right career. It's not the worst thing in the world. He gets some goals here and there, but definitely, I mean, he was in contention to be a starter at some point for us, and look at how much our depth has grown in that position. I'm also going to pick a striker. This one, I just mentioned the league that he plays in. It's going to be Joachini, playing for Como, who's a star on their Twitter account, on their Instagram stories account. However, he doesn't really play that much. He got some good minutes this week, and over 30 minutes, and he didn't impress me at all. I thought that he was having a really tough time with the marking, trying to free up space. When coming down deep to get the ball, you see again the time on the ball is something that MLS really doesn't prepare you for, how much people are going to be on you and how urgent the gameplay is going to be. He's playing at a very good club with some good competition up top as well. Cutrone has a bit of a knock, so maybe he could play, but I don't think they will trust him enough. So I have to pick Joachini. Sadly, does not looking like it's going to work out, but hey, maybe he's going to find himself in Serie A next year. So it's not the worst thing of all time. Moving on to the second player who impressed you and got a stock up, Braden.
So my second stock up is going to be a player who actually would have gotten it last week if we had done that instead of the GA Cup coverage, which you guys liked so much. It's going to be Malik Tillman, scoring another goal this weekend against Vitesse, which is a game that kind of made me sad seeing Paxton really be the only player on his team who actually looked like he cared at all. Bad situation for Vitesse, but we're talking about the positive side of things, and Malik Tillman, what a season. He's got so many goal contributions. I think we saw it at Rangers in his first pro season last year. He came in, made an instant impact, 12 goals, 5 assists there. That's 17 contributions. He's already improved on it with a lot less games this year. In a harder league, in a better team, playing Champions League nights as well, contributing there. 7 goals, 11 assists in all competitions. If you want to count penalties drawn as assists as well, he's at 20 goal contributions. Personally, I don't think that counts, but he's still at 18 and he'll hit 20 regardless by the end of the season. I'm sure of it. What a great season for him. It'll be interesting to see what his future holds, because I do think it's possible that Bayern consider keeping him around. There's a lot of turmoil around the club right now, a lot of uncertainty. Their midfield's kind of weak, and their usual 10, Thomas Muller, is kind of ending the twilight of his career. So who knows? Maybe they could experiment with Tillman. I think at least it would make sense to have him stay around for the preseason, see what he can do with the first team before ultimately deciding. I know PSV want to keep him. They have an option to buy, or they can at least negotiate with Bayern. And I know there's several other clubs that would be interested as well, all around Europe. So it'll be interesting to see what his future holds. But unlike Pifak, where the uncertainty is a negative, I think it's a positive for Malik Tillman.
Absolutely, and I think he has kind of outgrown that level too. I want to see him in a tougher league. Not that the Eredivisie is bad, but I think that it would be nice to see him try something new. Moving on to the next player right here, a youngster, again, another U23 player who's likely going to be representing us at the Olympic level. It's going to be Caleb Wiley, who I thought had a good game, goal aside, because people really think that just the goals count. I thought that he did well recovering. It does get beat quite easily. I don't think he's going to be a left back for his entire career. I think that he's likely going to be playing more as a left wing back, if anything, but more so as a left midfielder at the very highest level. If he reaches a ceiling that, quite frankly, probably overestimated at the beginning of his career, I don't think he's going to be a left back, but good game for him regardless, showing a lot of work, being very versatile for the team, willing to make runs defensively and offensively, and got a really nice goal as well. I'm sure he didn't like that, Braden, but it was a nice goal. Come on, he shot from really far away. Props to him, props to her. So you got to stock up for me here. Moving on to the next guy that you think got a stock down.
Yeah, all I have to say about that is Quinn Sullivan was owning him on that side. The battle of the future Olympic hopefuls, maybe. But for my next stock down, I'm going to pick a defender, like you said, and it's going to be Tim Ream. And I think we kind of haven't realized that Tim Ream has not played a Premier League minute since February 17th, which is a little bit of a concern. He's still an integral part to Fulham, even off the pitch. I mean, he's a leader. He's the co-captain or assistant captain at least. He wore the armband for most of the season when he was playing because their actual captain, Tom Kearney, doesn't get a lot of minutes either. But the fact that he hasn't played in so long, I think it's approaching almost 10 games. I think 7 in a row now that he hasn't played. He did have a good showing against Mexico. I thought he was very solid. It's not really about now, but it's kind of about our future because it's clear that Tim Ream has been steadily on the decline now this season due to his performances, and now the fact that he's not getting minutes. He wasn't even in the matchday squad this week, which is a new thing. Usually he's been on the bench. I don't know, maybe he picked up a little bit of a knock in training, but I think it's a little bit of a concern that seems to be out of the picture at Fulham, at least in terms of minutes. Like I said, he's still an integral part off the pitch, and he's still going to stick around with them for next season. He already signed that extension, but the fact that he won't be getting minutes probably for the rest of this season and probably for next season as well fills me with a little bit of doubt heading into the World Cup in 2026. He'll be fine at Copa America, I think, at least for this summer. But after that, we really need to transition. Nothing against Tim Ream. He's still a great player for us and a great center back, one of our best. But going into the World Cup in a couple of years, I think we need someone younger and we need someone better.
Absolutely. I think that if you want to shoot for that goal that we want to be a powerhouse eventually, punch above our weight, honestly, an aging Premier League center back, even though it's a Premier League level center back, it shouldn't be starting for us as the de facto best center back we have in our pool. Anyways, I'm moving from a player that's very involved with the national team that you mentioned, Tim Ream, to one that's never going to get called up again, maybe a Gold Cup at some point, Alan Sonora. I think that he has found form really, really tough this year because he is a starter for Huracan. However, the two best games that they won at River Plate and this week as well, he was on the bench, and I thought they'd play a lot better without him. And at the beginning, last season, towards the end of the season, I thought he was having a bit of a revival. Maybe he could get a move somewhere else, move to a better club in Argentina. But I think that this year they have found a way to play that really doesn't suit his style. He's very slow on the ball, and quite frankly, even with the small amount of minutes he's getting, I don't think he's doing anything to justify anything other than a low-level Primera División level player for Huracan. So stock down for him. Bit of a cheap shot there. Sorry, Alan. But moving on to the last one that impressed you, Braden, and gets a stock up.
Stock up, I think this is a pretty obvious pick. It has to be Gio Reyna. And I know this might be a crazy concept to some managers out there, but if you play him, he's actually going to be good. I know it's crazy. Berhalter, Terzic, Nuno, they're all in disbelief. But it happens. We saw last season at Dortmund, very limited minutes, and yet he still got 7 goals and 4 assists across all competitions. I believe he was actually the leader in goal contributions per 90 in the entire Bundesliga last year, or at least close to that. Just shows that whenever he's on the pitch, he's so effective. We've seen that for the USA time and time again. Whenever he's on, our attack is so much better than whenever he's out. When he's out, we lack creativity, we lack ideas, and ultimately the attack kind of falters. And he got his first start in the Premier League, finally getting trusted by Nuno, several weeks too late, maybe even months too late, but he gets his first start and he gets his first assist, which brings me to another point. It doesn't make sense to me at all how Pulisic takes set pieces over Reyna for the USMNT. We saw it here, a beautiful assist off of a corner to Morgan Gibbs-White to score against Wolves late in the first half, and every time I see Pulisic take a set piece, it seems like it doesn't clear the first defender. This isn't a shot at Pulisic at all. He's an incredible player, our best by far, and definitely a lot better of a player than Reyna, I think. But in terms of set pieces, it's not always about best player. Kind of like when we're picking a captain, it's not about who the best player is. Some players are better at certain things. I mean, James Ward-Prowse is one of the best set piece takers in the world, and he's a solid player at best overall. Reyna has to be on set pieces. Mind you, I don't think he's still the best option. I think that we would hope to maybe have better. But out of the whole pool, he's definitely the best, better than Pulisic. And we've seen Pulisic even have headers at times, header goals. So maybe put him in there. I think it just overall suits the team better. So happy for Gio that he finally got his chance and took it. Even the Forest fans, who are notoriously hating Americans due to Matt Turner's performances, and rightfully so, I would say. Turner's been pretty bad this season, but even they were impressed with his performance. Hopefully it continues next week and he continues to keep his spot in the starting lineup. With Nuno, you never really know, and with Gio in general, but hopefully he does, and it's at least a bright spot at the end of the tunnel. What's been a very, very bad season.
Yeah, and it's been a bad season again due to either injuries or the move that didn't really make much sense. But you're right, he brightens up the pitch. He creates things, makes things interesting. And I don't think that they're well suited for that type of creativity. Nuno isn't, but happy to see Gio playing. Hopefully he gets more minutes until the end of the season. I hope that he gets warranted more chances after today. Now, for me, it's going to be a player that I was really intrigued on who I was going to pick. I was going to pick Rafinha here, who I think has been so vital for his club, for Westerlo, just staying up. It's a lot thanks to him. He started playing. They moved from the bottom three to being at wherever they are in that group right there that qualifies for the Conference League. But anyways, I'm picking Patrick Schulte. And it's thanks to, I think it was a really nice showing, a moment he's always going to remember. He had one that he was going to want to forget earlier in the game. But anyways, he did get them through in a very tough game. I think that he's creating the aura. He's won things in the league now that maybe he really should be the starter for the Olympic team. He had a great match against France. Great match is an understatement. I thought he was amazing in that game. I think if he clears up some things, he's so young as well for a goalkeeper. Not the sexiest name that we have on our pool, but I think that he's increasing his stock week in, week out. And I think that's another good showing for him. I'm going to pick Patrick, and I back him to start in the Olympics. Maybe, just maybe, those links to Arsenal, hopefully not Arsenal, but to a club abroad do materialize. And he plays at a lower level, even championship. I will take him. Let's see if he can test himself outside of MLS. I think he has the talent to do so. But now, who's the player who gets the last stock down of the week, Brayden?
So my last stock down is going to be a player who might be the highest overall stock up for this season for USMNT players. Kind of a pleasant surprise this year. It's going to be Haji Wright. And like I said, he's been so good for them. Coventry's leader, I think, in goals and assists this season. He's been absolutely incredible for them. But this past week, it kind of all went wrong. Midweek against Southampton, he misses a penalty. Overall, not that great of a game. They end up losing. The penalty could have given them a draw, and they're in the point of the season where every single point matters, trying to chase that last playoff spot. And due to this week, they've slipped out because over the weekend, an embarrassing 3-0 loss to Birmingham on the road. It is an away game. Those are always going to be difficult, especially in the championship. It's one of the most unpredictable and chaotic leagues in the world, and that's why I love it so much. But to a Birmingham team who are fighting relegation, yes, that gives them more incentive to go out there and win. That win got them out of the relegation zone. Props to them. But for a team who's contending for the playoffs, you really need to go out and beat teams like that, regardless of where it is, regardless of the situation that the other club is in. And a 3-0 loss is just very embarrassing. Yet another lackluster game from Haji, 2 in the same week. And he at least cost his team 1 point. The Birmingham loss, you can't put on him losing 3-0. You can't put that on one player. But yeah, costing his team a point, and who knows if that could be crucial come the end of the season. It looks like Coventry have officially slipped out of the race. I think it's fair to say for the final spot. There's still a scenario where they make it in, but I think that spot will go to Norwich, which is still a positive for USMNT fans. Josh Sargent will be in the playoffs. Hopefully he can get promoted back to the Premier League with Norwich, but it would have been nice to see Coventry try to fight for that spot as well.
Absolutely. I mean, the silver lining is, if sure, he maybe costed them, but I think he's the reason why they even dreamt in the first place, really. Got that nice run in the FA Cup as well to look forward to. But my last stock down is going to be another cheap shot. I mean, honestly, I feel kind of bad saying this, but not Zach Booth. I'm going to pick Taylor Booth, his brother, who's been injured. I think that Utrecht have been playing a lot better recently, and there was a moment in time where they looked like they were going to be near the relegation zone. Well, now they are playing really well. I think that they have really good players. I think that the fact that Fraulo, who's a player where I want to see Booth play that role, he plays at center midfield, but he's only on loan, is a positive. But overall, it's a negative because we're approaching the Olympic time. There's still nowhere to be seen, any sights of him training back on the squad. I think ideally this should be a moment where he's back training, even light work, but we don't see that. So I'm going to pick Booth. It's a sad one, but I love the guy, but it has to be a stock down for me. as he would have been crucial in the Olympics, in my opinion. Now it's the moment of the show where we pick the players who we are going to be keeping on our stock watch, and going to be picking one mainstream player and one player that goes under the radar. Who's the big name that you're going to be watching on this week, Braden?
My main player to watch is going to be Johnny Cardoso. He's been in and out of the lineup recently for Betis after an incredible start to life in Spain. I think he adjusted super well, but he's been in and out on the bench, not playing too many minutes as of late. But he did start this past week against Celta Vigo. Another 90-minute performance, another incredible performance from him. It seems like every time he's in the starting lineup for Betis, he's always one of the best players on the pitch. So he should keep that spot, hopefully, at least for this week. And it's a big game against Valencia, and it could have some serious European implications for Real Betis or Valencia, depending on who wins the game. Betis only 1 point ahead of Valencia, but Valencia do have a game in hand. So this win, a potential win for Betis, getting 3 points ahead would be absolutely paramount to keep their spot in 7th, which could put them in the Europa Conference League. We're still waiting to determine if Spain get the extra spot because of the new Champions League format. It's between them or the Premier League for the 5th spot in the Champions League. If it does go to that, I think we could even potentially see Betis in the Europa League next year. But I think it's most likely if they do stay in 7th, they could qualify for the Europa Conference League, which is what they were in this year. A disappointing exit, but they could look to make amends next season. And I think with a first full season with Johnny at Betis next year, trying to fight for maybe a Conference League title. It's not the most prestigious of European trophies, but for a club of Betis' caliber, I think it's a good goal to go ahead for. So this game against Valencia is absolutely crucial. And then for my under-the-radar player, I'm going to go for Noah Cobb, the 18-year-old center back. He started 4 games in a row for Atlanta United in MLS. You mentioned Caleb Wiley in your stock up. Well, I thought he was a pretty solid player as well against Philadelphia this weekend. I think he's had better performances this season, but the fact that he has seemed to become a consistent starter for Atlanta as just 18 as a center back, I think is kind of unheard of anywhere in the world for such a player that young to be playing in the center of defense. And I think he gets overlooked. And honestly, I think he needs to be at least in considerations for the U20 World Cup squad this summer. And I'm not going to make this argument just yet, but I think there could be a potential scenario where he's playing better than George Campbell, who's been in the Olympic roster a lot of the time. He looks like he could end up making the final roster. Noah Cobb is like 4 to 5 years younger than him, playing for, I would argue, a better club, and has a lot more potential. So maybe even at the Olympics, but I think the fact that he hasn't been with the U20s yet, probably just keep him in that cycle for this summer. But regardless, an exciting talent to watch. Another one at a position that we're so weak at. Hopefully one of these guys pans out. I think Cobb could be one of them.
Yeah, it's so nice to see a young center back playing for MLS. Talking about defenders, it's a good transition to my player. It's not the main one just yet. It's going to be the player that does go under the radar. Christopher Lund got an assist for Palermo. I think that Palermo has been really underwhelming for him, really frustrating. Just calling it now, I would like to see him get a move over the summer. I know it's early on. He just moved there, but hey, the Italian calciomercato moves all the time. Players move a year in, year out from clubs, especially in Serie B. So who knows? I think that he has earned a move to another club, as I think that Palermo did underwhelm quite a lot. So I'm going to keep an eye on him as he tries to help them stay within that playoff spot. I think they are pretty safe, but every position counts. Playing the playoffs in Serie B is so tough, so any position counts. If you go from 6th to 5th, does make a huge difference. It's an extra game, really. And now moving on to the main player, it's going to be Captain America himself, the only Captain America. Please, all the Twitter pages always say any player is a Captain America. No, Christian Pulisic is the Captain America, at least for this generation. Big game against Roma. Some people may be hating on him and saying that he didn't really shine in big matches previously. Well, they're going to play against Roma side that found new life with De Rossi as the manager. So it's definitely a good game to watch. Milan against Roma doesn't really get much better than that, really, for a game this week. So I'm going to keep him on my stock watch, and hopefully he does deliver so he shuts any type of hate. He has had such a great season. But it comes to the end of the show. Thank you so much, Braden. Thank you guys for watching. Please leave a comment below what you thought about the picks, any players that you think should have made this list or not, and give us any discussions or any suggestions for videos we should make going forward. We'll share, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.